I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of a full video review of the LG Spirit 4G on MetroPCS. Let's throw it into the review in part 2 and see how it comes out. Part 2 of a review of the MetroPCS LG Spirit 4G, a nice prepaid phone that offers some killer specifications and can compete with the big boys, at least with the big boys mid-range handsets. But what's great about this, 4G LTE in markets that support it with MetroPCS, and a nice build quality and decent specifications to boot. To give you a quick recap, 1.2 GHz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU. It's got a 4.5-inch display, a 5-megapixel camera, Android 4.0. It's got the works when it comes to specs from a mid-range standpoint. May not be quite up there, but still has a lot to like and has a good bang for the buck. That said, let's take a look at the 4G LTE speeds in the Dallas metro area. We'll go over here to Tools, we'll turn on megabits per second, and then we'll go to Find the Closest Server. Begin test, and we'll see. MetroPCS speeds have been interesting in the time that I've been working with this. I've found it anywhere between like 1.8 megabits per second, kind of like what you're seeing here, 3 to 5. I think the max I ever saw it was 4.5 or 5. So needless to say, for 4G LTE, not impressive on the speed standpoint, but it does have 4G LTE nonetheless. The upload speed's a little better, 4.5-ish megabits per second. So nothing to write home about there in comparison to Verizon and AT&T, but still you do get 4G LTE, or so they say. But again, those speeds are not particularly impressive. Let's take a look at Quadrant Standard as well and see which phone comes out on top, at least comparatively speaking, amongst the mid-range handsets. So here we go with this. We'll take a look and talk about call quality while this is loading up. I've been relatively impressed with the call quality on this device. Overall, calls are clear and easy to hear. Battery life's been relatively decent. It's got a 2,150 milliamp hour battery that is removable. Talk time seems a little low in comparison. I find that the battery life, is decent, but with moderate use to kind of low heavy use, I was getting about 8 to 10 hours before it required a recharge. So not impressive in comparison to the Galaxy S3, the 1X Plus, and even some of the mid-range stuff like the Lumia 822, the 8X, all these other competitors on the market. Definitely need some work in the battery life department. Overall, Android 4.0, like I said in part 1, is very fluid all around, pretty easy to use, and LG's user interface really makes it look good to boot. So those are all very, very good things. So it's loading up right now. Quadrant Standard, we'll see how fast it performs. Let's come in here and wait for these tests to load up. Benchmark results, yes, let's submit them. 5,676. So again, 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU. Not bad by any stretch of the imagination. 5,676 on Quadrant Standard. I want to talk a little bit more about some other things, but before we do that, we'll go into camera and take a look. 5-megapixel camera, and I did not mean to go into the camcorder. Let's try that again. Clearly it's Friday and the phone's falling out of my hands. I've not had enough coffee, I guess. And then you've got all your different options here, brightness, focus, and it's hard to do a camera test on an actual camera. I can't show you these outside of what I'm doing right now, but we'll take a quick picture of the Verizon Galaxy Note 2, which happens to be over here preparing for a dogfight. And so you can see it's a decent camera. The image quality is pretty reasonable. Over here you can see kind of the silver lines in the Galaxy Note 2, and the 4G LTE logo is pretty easy to make out, but when you do zoom in, you see some distortion and some noise over there on each one of the texts. Like, for example, there's a lot of noise around the borders of each one of these letters. So keep that in mind. It's not anything to write home about, but it's a decent camera, again, given the price point that this offers. Let's focus on some of MetroPCS's apps as well. But before we do that, going to give some love to our partners at Best Buy Mobile. Thanks to them, we give you free phones in the One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your contacts, your settings, everything. So when you walk out the door, you're set up and you're good to go. Thanks to our boys at Best Buy Mobile, our boys in blue, as I like to call them. So featured, browse, my apps, as you can see here with Metro App Store. Got this. We'll go ahead and browse through here and see what you've got just in terms of an app store. Kind of a third-party app store from MetroPCS, and it tells me what device I'm on, featured apps, and more. So here they are. And then we can go over here to Metro Block It, for example, and just see what it does. Metro Block It, go to the Play Store and download it. Looks like it was just a short link. May need to update that or open it up. Let's see. We'll go ahead and update it because it looks like it's not going to let us do anything else. And then we'll come through here and say Easy Wi-Fi, for example. Free access to the world's largest Wi-Fi network. So you get a lot of MetroPCS stuff pre-installed out of the box. M-Studio and more. And it looks like that one might. Okay, that one actually did load up, so it is pre-installed on the device itself. And My Library, Video, Music Store, and more. So we'll go ahead and go into My Library. Actually, we'll go into the Music Store. And we'll say New Releases. one of those nights. And I've got the ability to preview my songs as well. So it gives me an option to buy some songs and put them on my phone. So that's a pretty cool feature. You got that option. And then again, MetroPCS's plans, the $60 plan should give you unlimited 4G LTE connectivity, though there may be a cap on that. They listed as unlimited. The $50 plan, I believe, is 2.5 gigabytes before they throttle you, and the $40 plan is 500 megabytes before they throttle you, if I recall. So otherwise, quick and easy to use. I love the screen size. I find that this device is very pocketable. When I threw it around in my pocket to test it out, I found it was easy. It wasn't bulging out of my pocket. It was not happy to see anybody. It was pretty easy to carry around in the pocket, and I like the build quality. What it can do better, battery life needs to have tremendous improvements. Really can improve there. Otherwise, camera's decent. Everything else is pretty decent. We'll go into phone here and take a look at the call area, contacts, and favorites. So there's my dial pad. Here's a sample contact, John Rogers. As you can see, typical LG look and feel. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of the MetroPCS LG Spirit 4G. All in all, really like this handset for what it brings to the table. Yes, battery life's not great. Yes, the specs aren't the highest of the high end. But what I like about this is it brings a nice package to the table and brings a good bang for the buck for those people that want LTE, slow as it may be according to my speed test, still want LTE and a decent phone with a dual-core processor. There's a lot to like in the Spirit. It's got Spirit. I couldn't resist. I had to make that bad joke. Keep it locked on the site. Hit me up on Twitter, PhoneDog_Aaron, Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB, Google+, G+.to/PhoneDog. Let me know what you think of this device and more. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. And as always, boom. We'll see you next time.